Now we will discuss Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and ISO quality management standards. There is a strong link between Sustainable Development Goals and ISO quality management standards, emphasizing their combined importance in promoting healthy ecosystems, economic growth, and improved quality of life. Using quantitative methods and regression analysis, the study demonstrates that ISO standards support long-term sustainable development by ensuring better management of production, minimizing environmental damage, and enhancing social well-being. However, a lack of implementation methods, education, and standardization, especially in higher education and policy framework, hinders this progress. The study highlights that strengthening quality infrastructure and institution while aligning business environments with ISO principles can significantly improve sustainability outcomes and life quality across nations. Here are some material and methods about the sustainability and sustainable development. The word sustainability is derived from the Latin word sustenere, which means to hold, refers to maintaining the balance in environmental, economic, and social systems to support both current and future human needs. It involves managing resources, investments, and technological development in harmony with nature. Sustainable development, which is a broader concept rooted in 1987 Brundtland Report, it emphasizes that not just environmental protection but also economic and social growth, supported by practices like green technologies, ethical consumerism, and sustainable urban planning. True sustainability aims for a stable balance where resource consumption does not exceed nature's capacity to renew, thus ensuring long-term ecosystem health and human well-being. Now, the modern economies face the challenges of balancing the economic development and environmental preservation, a concept known as Managed Sustainable Development (MSD). The United Nations 2030 Agenda, adopted in 2015, introduced 17 Sustainable Development Goals aimed at global prosperity, environmental protection, and social equity. Measuring sustainability involves indicators and indexes like SDG Index and Environmental Performance Index, which assesses national progress. The International Organization for Standardization supports sustainability through over 22,000 standards. As we know that the ISO has 25,000 standards, but the sustainability supports over 22,000 standards. Okay, helping businesses, governments, and consumers aligned with SDGs. ISO standards address areas such as economic growth, social welfare, environmental protection, and innovation, providing tools for building sustainable infrastructure, improving the quality of life, and managing climate impact. Governments use ISO as a foundation for policy, industries protection, and innovation, providing tools for building sustainable infrastructure, improving the quality of life, and managing climate impact. Governments use ISO as a foundation for policy, industries benefit for efficient frameworks, and communities experience improved health, safety, and environmental conditions. Collectively, ISO standard plays a crucial role in turning the United Nations sustainability vision into an actionable progress by 2030. Now, here is the quality management doing businesses and global trends on ISO certificates. Quality management involves overseeing all activities required to achieve and maintain a high level of performance in products and services. It includes quality planning, assurance, control, and continuous improvement, not only focusing on product outcomes but also on improving the processes that led to them. ISO certifications play a key role in these systems by setting internationally recognized standards that ensure the consistency, reliability, and trust in business operations, both in public and private sectors. These standards are essential for business aiming to participate in global trade, public procurement, and market competitiveness. Without such standards, business would struggle with inefficiency and low quality outputs, ultimately reducing citizens' quality of life. Globally, over 1.6 million ISO certificates were issued in 2014, with steady growth observed across sectors. Notable increases include ISO 5001, energy management with 40% growth, ISO 22000, food safety with 14% growth, and ISO 16949, automotive quality with 8% growth, reflecting ongoing global efforts to maintain business excellence, sustainability, and economic resilience. Now, here is a table which shows the ISO survey executive summary sourced from ISO in 2020. Here are some ISO standards and their total valid certificates and their total number of sites. Okay. Although some higher education institutions in regions like Europe, the US, the UK, and China have made progress in updating curricula, there is still a global lack of academic programs focused on environment, sustainability, ecology, and quality management, especially in Latin America, Africa, and the Middle East. Universities in fields like environmental sciences, law and economies and engineering need to develop interdisciplinary courses to build essential knowledge and skills related to sustainable development and ISO standards. ISO survey data has shown that the 8% increase in certification from 2019 to 2020, with notable growth in ISO 45001, ISO 9001, and ISO 14001, particularly in China. However, the data is limited by inconsistent report across countries and the fact that the ISO survey is not a detailed database, but rather a basic certificate count by country name. This highlights the need for more structured and data-driven analysis linking ISO certification trends to sustainability outcomes. Now we will discuss the correlation and regression analysis that were conducted across 134 countries to explore the statistical relationship between SDG index and ISO certification levels. Since raw ISO data alone does not provide the insight into intensity of certification relative to business activity, this calculated index offered a clearer standardized comparison for meaningful analysis. The regression analysis conducted between the SDG index on y-axis, here is the graph, SDG index on y-axis and ISO standard index on x-axis across multiple countries showed that there is no strong statistical relationship between the two. The finding supports the alternative hypothesis H1 that there is no significant connection between the country's SDG performance and its level of ISO certification. Hypothesis 1 indicates that there is no connection between SDG and ISO index, but the null hypothesis H0 assumes there is a strong link between the country's SDG performance and its level of ISO certification. This analysis, performed using Excel sheets, included a graph that visually confirmed the lack of correlation, suggesting that simply having more ISO certifications does not directly translate to better performance on sustainable development goals. Now, we will discuss the graph. The blue line indicates the SD index, and the red line indicates the ISO certificates index. The blue line represents the Sustainable Development Index values. Starts high, which is nearly equal to 85, and gradually declines to around 45. It indicates a broad range in SD performance. Some entities perform well, others poorly. While the red line represents the ISO certificates index values, appears flat and very close to zero across all entities, suggest a very small value or minimal variation in ISO certification levels relative to the SD index. Okay, here the red line indicates 1 to 133, which indicates that there are 133 countries. That was the graph, which indicates the missing relation between the SDG index and ISO standards index. Okay. This study highlights the importance of linking Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) and ISO quality management standards to improve their life, and more research to strengthen the relationship between SDGs and ISO standards, suggesting that aligning these systems more closely could significantly enhance global environmental health, economic growth, and social well-being. Okay, now we will discuss the ISO 14000 standards as a tool for achieving environmental sustainability of enterprises. A family of international standards developed by ISO for environmental management systems (EMS), whose aim are to reduce environmental impact and enhance eco-performance of organizations in the textile industry, which is known for a significant environmental impact like water consumption, chemical use, water waste generation, and carbon emission. Implementing ISO 14000 helps companies improve sustainability and compliance. Clear? Here are some key objectives of ISO 14000 in textile industry. The first of all is to reduce environmental impact, which means it minimizes the pollution like air, water, or soil. from textile manufacturing, decrease their hazardous chemicals, for example, dyes, bleach, finishing agents, and lower carbon footprint by optimizing energy and water uses. The second is compliance with environmental regulations. It ensures adherence to local and international environmental laws, for example, REACH, ZDHC, and EU Eco Label. Avoid legal penalties and improve corporate responsibility. The third one is the waste management and resource efficiency, which promote recycling and reuse of textile waste, for example, the fabric scarves and the wastewater, and to reduce the raw material consumption through sustainable sourcing. Clear? The fourth one is to improve the operational efficiency. It implement clearer production techniques to save cost, for example, waterless dyeing and energy efficient machinery. It optimizes supply chain sustainability from raw materials to finished products. The fifth one is to enhance the corporate image and marketability. It meet eco-conscious consumer demands, for example, organic cotton and sustainable fashion, and to gain a competitive edge in global markets where ISO 14001 certification is preferred. Clear? And the sixth one is continuous environmental improvement. It establishes a framework for ongoing EMS audits and performance tracking. It encourages innovation in eco-friendly textile progress. Okay, here are some key ISO standards relevant to textile industries. First of all is ISO 14001 EMS requirements, ISO 14006 Eco Design for Sustainable Textiles, ISO 14046 Water Footprint Assessment, ISO 14064 for greenhouse gas emission tracking. The ISO 14000 series helps textile companies minimize environmental harm, comply with regulations, reduce costs, and appeal to eco-aware customers. By adopting these standards, the industry can move toward a long-term sustainability while maintaining profitability. Now, the background. Here is the background. Environmental sustainability has become essential in response to climate change, pollution, and depletion of natural resources. As we know nowadays, the temperature of the earth is increasing day by day, and this ISO is for the is essential in response to climate change or pollution or depletion of natural resources. Clear? The United Nations in 2030 agenda, with its 17 sustainable development goals, serves as a global framework for guiding sustainability efforts. To support these goals, governments implement national regulations, offer incentives, and promote the use of international standards using the ISO 14000 series. Among them, ISO 14001 focuses on environmental management systems, helping the organizations to manage their environmental impact more effectively. This is particularly relevant for the textile industry, which is highly resource intensive and polluting, promoting many companies in the sector to adopt ISO 14001 to improve sustainability practices. ISO 14000 emergence in textile sector, like how it emerges in textile sector. First of all, the growing environmental concerns. The textile industry is a major contributor to water pollution, includes toxic dyes, chemicals, microplastics, and high water consumption. For example, nearly 2,700 liters for one cotton t-shirt, and carbon emissions from energy intensive progress and waste generation, fabric scarves, packaging, and fast fashion waste. The increasing pressure from governments, NGOs, and consumers forced the industry to adopt better environmental practices. The second is regulatory pressure, strict environmental laws, for example, EU's REACH, ZDHC, MRSL, China's new environmental codes pushed textile manufacturers to comply or face penalties. Brands sourcing textiles from developing countries, Bangladesh, India, Vietnam, demanded eco certifications to meet global standards. Then the consumer demand for sustainable fashion. Rising awareness of fast fashion environmental impact led to demand for organic cotton, low impact dyes, recycled fabrics. Brands like Patagonia, H&M, Conscious Collections, and Adidas, Parley Ocean Plastic, promoted ISO 14001 certified supply chains. Then global trade requirements. Many international buyers, For example, IKEA, Nike, Walmart require suppliers to have for ISO 14001 certification as a proof of sustainable production. Compliances help textile exporters access European and North American markets where eco-regulations are strict. Evolution of ISO 14000 in textile industry in 1996, first publication of ISO 14001 providing a framework for EMS. 2000 in 2000s, major textile hubs, China, India, Bangladesh, faced criticism for polluting, leading to ISO 14001 adoption. In 2010s, fast fashion backlash increased demand for circular economy instead of linear economy and life cycle assessment in textiles, ISO 14006 and ISO 14040. But in 2020s, climate change pressure led to carbon footprint tracking, ISO 14064, and water footprint standards, 14046, in textile manufacturing. ISO 14000 series became essential in textile industry due to environmental damage, strict laws, consumer demand for sustainability, and global trade requirements. Companies adopting these standards gain regulatory compliances, cost savings, and a competitive edge in the eco-conscious market. Here are some research methods for these analyses. The research method includes the authors divide ISO 14000 family standards divided into groups. Here are the 6 groups: EMS standards, environmental auditing, environmental labeling, environmental performance evaluation, life cycle assessment, GHG, and climate change management. The ISO 14000 series include multiple standards that help textile companies manage environmental impact. The first of all is the Environmental Management Systems, ISO 14001, which we abbreviated as EMS. Core of EMS based on the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. PDCA, it ensures the environmental planning, leadership, performance checks, annual third-party audits. The benefits include universal applications, continuous improvement, and the drawbacks include costly, not industry specific. As we know that if someone have any benefit, then it is necessary to have some drawbacks. Environmental auditing, for example, ISO 14015, 14016 focuses on internal and external audits and environmental reports. It promotes the transparency and helps track progress. And the drawbacks includes it is costly and it is generic in nature. The environmental labeling, ISO 14020 series, it provides the rules for eco-labels and product declarations. Mainly benefits large businesses, less impact on sustainability directly. The fourth one is environmental performance evaluation. For example, ISO 14031 and 14030 series. It guides measurement analysis and green finance tools. It encourages industries to track environmental performance regularly. Life cycle assessment, ISO 14040 series, assesses environmental impact throughout the life cycle of a product or processes. It is useful for big projects and industries, for example, textiles and energies. Textile and energy limitations include it is complex, not fit for small businesses. And the sixth and the last one is the greenhouse gases and climate management, ISO 14064 series. Targets include GHG emission tracking, reduction and carbon footprint, critical for achieving net zero emission, expensive and complex, hard for small enterprises to adopt fully. How do these groups apply in the textile industries? EMS 14001. The key applications in textile industries include factories implementation, waste reduction. If the factories implement these, then there is a waste reduction. Would be energy efficient and compliances progress. Then auditing, ISO 14031 brands audit suppliers, for example, chemical use, wastewater treatment, and labor conditions. Life cycle assessment, LCA ISO 14040 measures the full environmental cost of a t-shirt or a jeans. Footprint ISO 14046 or 14000 or 64 reports a water usage report on water use, for example, denim washing, and carbon emission, for example, synthetic fiber production. The conclusion of all this is the ISO 14000 family helps textile companies systematically manage environmental risks. ISO 14001 track and reduce water, carbon, and chemical impacts. ISO 14046 and 14064 design greener products through life cycle analysis. ISO 14040 and 14044 then ensures the compliances with global regulations. ISO 14015 and 14031. Leading textile and apparel companies like Nike, H&M, and denim manufacturers, for example, Levi's, BSL, cotton suppliers, implement ISO 14000 standards to enhance the stability, comply with regulations, and meet conscious consumer demand. Below are real world applications. There is a comparison table how top brand use ISO 14000. There are some companies, their key ISO standards used, their major sustainability achievements. The first of all is the Nike ISO, which includes the ISO 14001, 14064, and 14046. Their major sustainability achievement is 30% less energy, 30 billion liters water saved, while the company H&M used the ISO 14001, 14040, and 14006. And their major sustainability achievement is 57% recycled materials, 1 B PET bottles per year, 1 billion PET bottles per year. Then Levi's uses ISO standards 14001, 14046, and 14064. 96% less water in dyeing, and 10 billion liters water saved. Clear? Why ISO 14000 matters for textile giants? Nike, H&M, and Levi's uses ISO 14001 to cut waste, water, and carbon emission. ISO 14046 water and 14064 carbon helps them to track and reduce environmental footprints. ISO 14040 life cycle assessment and 14006 eco design drive circular fashion innovations. The future trends include more brands will adopt ISO 14000 to meet the EU's 2030's Green Deal and consumers' demand for sustainable fashion. Here are some strengths and weakness summaries of these groups. The EMS, the strengths include universal, PDCA model, and adaptable. Their weaknesses include it is costly, lacks sector specific guidance, and the group auditing includes the strengths transparent, standard reporting, and the weakness costly, and it is generic. And the group labeling includes helps product eco-declaration, minor role in sustainability or costly, and the performance evaluation measure. The strength include the measures and improves performance usable alone. And their weakness include it is not tailored for SMEs or specific industries. The life cycle assessment group include the strength it evaluates full environmental impact. But the weakness includes it is expensive, complex, and no unified methodology. The GHG management include the strengths. It is the deep GHG focuses, supports climate policy, but the weakness includes it is not SME friendly, high certification costs. The conclusion includes the ISO 14000 standards are valuable tools for environmental sustainability. They offer flexibility, international credibility, and encourage systematic environmental management. The challenges include it is costly, it has low adaptability for SMEs, the lack of sector-specific customization. The recommendations include develop simplified variants for small enterprises and custom standards for industries. Clear? Now we will discuss ISO 14001 and the creation of SSCM in the textile industry. In recent years, sustainable management in supply chains has gained growing attention due to increasing consumer pressure, societal awareness of environmental issues, and the rise of responsible business practices and global initiatives. Like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, companies are now expected not only to provide goods and services but also to actively contribute to addressing broader social, economic, and environmental challenges. Sustainable supply chain management involves all members of the supply chain working beyond their individual goals to implement eco friendly, socially responsible practices that benefit both current and future generations. This concept is especially critical in the industry, which, while being a major economic contributor in Europe, also causes significant environmental harm. Furthermore, the industry shapes fashion trends, offering opportunities for promoting sustainability. However, textile companies face the difficult task of balancing sustainability with competitive performance all while managing reputational risk from key stakeholders such as regulators, consumers, investors, media, and NGOs. The textile supply chain is highly vulnerable to fraud, irregularities, and sustainable challenges due to its global complexity and stronger customer bargaining power. The key issues include outsourcing to low cost regions, difficulties in managing returns, and fast fashion model that pressures supply speed, effective sustainable supply chain management SSCM requires shared understanding and strategic alignment among all supply chain participants. Implementing ISO 14001 environmental standards can support ecological practices, reduce errors, and provide competitive advantages. However, there is a lack of research on how ISO 14001 functions specifically in textile supply chains, especially in Central and Eastern Europe. Here is a theoretical model of SSCM. First of all, the adoption is done. It focuses. It helps in forces, the policy and regulations, internal factors, and the marketing and public relations. After adoption, we will do implementation. The implementation includes the waste reduction, ISO 14001 certification, eco design, and pollution prevention. After implementation, we will do the performance, which includes it would be operational, economic, environmental, and social. Clear? Here is the function of SSM. First of all, we will do the purchasing, then manufacturing, then distribution, then value proposition, then customer and product use, and then reuse, recycle, and return. Clear? Then the European textile industry is a vital component of the region's economy. With production varying across countries, the mass market goods are typically made in Eastern and Southern Europe due to low labor cost, while luxury items are crafted in Western Europe. The industry is dominated by small enterprises striving for improved efficiency, sustainability, and responsiveness to consumers' need, particularly in Central and Eastern Europe, for example, Poland, Slovakia, Czech Republic. Companies focuses on enhancing productivity, staff training, and expanding globally through e-commerce and innovation. However, the industry faces challenges such as complex supply chains, the environmental impact of production, and social concern like labor exploitation issues intensified by the COVID-19 pandemic. To address these challenges, sustainable supply chain management (SSCM) has become essential, calling for improvements in procurement, production, and logistics. While various strategies have been explored, there is notable research gap regarding the impact of management standards like ISO 9001 and ISO 14001 on SSCM in textiles. These standards can enhance the efficiency and reduce environmental harm, yet their adoption and effects vary. This study aims to evaluate how low standard influence SSCM in the textile sector and whether integrating multiple systems offers greater benefits than implementing a single standard. It highlights the individual and combined effect of ISO 9001 and ISO 14001 on environmental and quality management across various industries with a particular focus on the textile sector. ISO 14001 supports effective environmental management systems, while ISO 9001 enhances the quality management and can indirectly contribute to environmental performance through process improvement. Studies suggest that integrating both standards yields greater benefits, including improved sustainability, efficiency, and stakeholder relations. However, despite their complementarity and potential synergy, there remains a significant research gap. Specifically, there is limited investigation onto the impact of ISO 9001 on sustainable supply chains in textile industry. The integration of ISO 9001 and ISO 14001 and how these standards together influence SSCM outcomes. Then it is given the textile sector's substantial environmental footprint. Further research is necessary to explore how standardized management systems can drive more sustainable practices with global textiles and supply chains. It was designed to examine the environmental effects of ISO 9001 and ISO 14001 certifications on textile organizations in Poland, Slovakia, and Czech Republic. The structured research plan was developed around four key research questions focusing on the extent and nature of environmental improvement, key differences between certifications, hidden correlations among impact, and how these vary by organization type. The research began with a literature review to identify knowledge gaps, followed by formulating questions and define variabilities in supply, products, and distribution areas. A detailed questionnaire was created and tested for clarity and then distributed electronically to 600 textile companies, resulting in 105 complete responses. The target respondents were top level managers. Data were collected using a Likert scale, tested for reliability, and analyzed using various statistical methods such as descriptive statistics, ANOVA, factor analysis, and hypothesis testing. Now we will discuss the detergent chemistry. In textile industry, detergent chemistry is essential for processes such as scouring, desizing, washing, where it helps remove impurities like oils, waxes, and desizing agents from fabrics. However, the use of conventional detergents can lead to significant environmental concerns, including water pollution and chemical waste. The implementation of ISO 14000 series, and particularly ISO 14001, supports the industry in managing these environmental impacts through a structured environmental management systems. By adopting ISO 14001, textile manufacturers are encouraged to use eco-friendly and biodegradable detergents, reduce chemical consumption, monitor effluent discharge, and ensures proper wastewater treatment. These standards also promote life cycle assessments and continuous improvement practices, helping companies minimize their environmental footprints. Overall, ISO 14000 and 14001 enables the textile industry to balance effective cleaning with sustainable environmental practices. The Tide detergent is formulated using complex chemistry and is manufactured in compliance with ISO standards to ensure the product quality, user safety, and environmental responsibility. ISO standards such as ISO 9001, ISO 14001, and ISO 22716 help ensure Tide meets both performance expectations and global regulatory requirements. Here are some testing methods in the textile industry using ISO 14000 and ISO 14001. In the textile industry, ISO 14000 and 14001 standards are primarily focuses on environmental management, not directly product testing. However, they influence how testing is conducting, ensuring that environmental impact is minimized and processes meet sustainability goals. Here is now testing aligns with these standards. The testing methods under 14000 and 14001 includes the chemical testing of effluents. It includes the purpose of it is to test wastewater for harmful chemicals before disposal. The standard links are ISO 14001 requires identifying environmental aspects, and effluent testing ensures compliance with legal discharge limits. Then there is air emission testing. The purpose of it is checks for emissions from dying finishing units. The standard links include supports ISO 14001 goals of pollution prevention and air quality monitoring. The third one is the noise level monitoring. The noise level monitoring includes the purpose to test machinery noise impact on the environment, and the standard links are it supports sustainable workplace environment goals. The fourth one is the energy and resource audits. It includes the purpose, it measures the electricity, water, and chemical use. The standard links include it helps identify areas to reduce consumption per ISO 14001 continual improvement requirement. The fifth one is ecotoxical taxing, toxicological taxing. The purpose of it ensures the chemicals and detergents used are biodegradable or safe, and standard links in line with ISO 14,000 series promoting eco-friendly substances. The life cycle assessment includes it evaluates the environmental impact of a textile product from raw material to their disposal, and the standard link encouraged by the ISO 14040 part of ISO 14,000 family. Clear? And the seventh one is the wastewater management testing. The purpose of it monitors types and quantities of solid, liquid, and hazardous waste. The standard links include the part of ISO 14001 requirements for identifying and controlling environmental aspects. The last one is the compliance testing with REACH and GOTS. Purpose includes it ensures use of safe chemicals, REACH, and organic materials through GOTS. The standard links include the sports ISO 14001 legal and regulatory compliances requirements. Clear? That was all about my topic. I hope you understand it.